Terrorist beheadings, mourning and justice-seeking families, and an allegedly complicit state. Today we look at the gruesome case of Gates versus the Syrian Arab Republic, which effectively underscores the intersection of terrorism, state responsibility, and the pursuit of justice within the framework of international law. Olin Armstrong and Jack Hensley were American contractors who provided support to the U.S. military in Iraq. Their abduction and brutal beheadings, captured on video and disseminated by terrorist group Al-Qaeda, shocked the world. In the aftermath of this surface video, the families of Armstrong and Hensley sought justice. They turned to consult the legal arena, suing the Syrian Arab Republic in a U.S. federal court. A crucial issue in this case is that pre-existent state law dismisses claims that a plaintiff is or was a victim of state-sponsored terrorism. This dismissal is often based in the concept of sovereign immunity, which seeks to protect foreign states from legal actions in the courts of other states. Fortunately for the Armstrong and Hensley families, the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act provides a significant exception. What are the key arguments? Well, the plaintiffs asserted that Syria, its president, and the intelligence minister could be held accountable under the FSIA Section 1605A. This section offers U.S. citizens a specific federal cause of action if a state evidently supports terrorist acts to further its own policy goals or holds the prior designation of a state sponsor of terrorism. Additionally, they asserted state law claims encompassing several charges of battery, assault, false imprisonment, wrongful death, conspiracy, aiding and abetting, and more. The core of their allegations rested in how Syria provides material support and resources to Al-Qaeda in Iraq and its leader Zarqawi. The court found that Syria's aid to Al-Qaeda in Iraq was not unknowing, and the murders were foreseeable consequences of Syria's support. Additionally, it is important to note that Syria has been designated a state sponsor of terrorism since 1979. As a result, financial compensation was demanded, as 1605A subsection C states how proven acts of terrorism by foreign states may include economic damages, solatium, pain and suffering, and punitive damages.
Initially, Syria did not respond to the claims put forward by the families of Armstrong and Hensley. Due to the lack of appearance during the legal proceedings, the court proceeded to a default setting, which under the FSIA includes a default judgment that's based on the plaintiff's ability to prove their case. Thereafter, the district court found Syria liable for the death of the contractors. This outcome reflects a similar hostage case, Sesepio Puleo versus the Islamic Republic of Iran. Sesepio sued Iran under terms of the FSIA, but Iran did not appear, resulting in a default judgment ruled in favor of the plaintiff, awarding Sesepio $30 million in damages. Shortly after the court entered its default judgment, Syria appealed the decision by filing a motion under Rule 60B, which allows parties to seek relief from a final judgment. Specifically, Syria's motion was filed under Clause 4, as they argue that the default judgment is void because they simply weren't notified of the claims against them. Once the case was appealed, Syria argued that the U.S. District Court lacked jurisdiction because the FSIA conflicts with Article 2 of the UN Charter. Specifically, Article 2, Clause 7 of the UN Charter states that the UN and its members have no authority to intervene in matters which are within the domestic jurisdiction of any state. By judging acts that Syria may consider part of its national defense or security policy, the U.S. courts can be perceived as intervening in matters that should be within the domestic jurisdiction of Syria, violating a principle of non-intervention. Syria also argues that this case is a non-justiciable political question. This argument suggests that the matters involved are related to foreign policy and diplomatic decisions, and are ultimately unrelated to the judiciary branch of government. Essentially, Syria is saying that the court shouldn't be involved because the case involves complex political issues beyond the court's expertise and authority. Syria also claimed the case was non-justiciable due to the prior case of Wyatt versus Syrian Arab Republic, in which the plaintiff sought to seek damages for injuries resulting from a similar terrorist hostage situation. Plaintiff's requests were denied, and Syria did not have to pay for punitive damages based on lack of evidence.
Despite Syria's attempt to appeal the initial verdict, the district court granted default judgment in favor of the plaintiffs, awarding damages in excess of $400 million. This judgment had also included punitive damages and solatium. In terms of this ruling's implications, this case sets a precedent that can encourage more lawsuits against Syria and other states known to sponsor terrorism under the FSIA, particularly from victims of terrorism. This could lead to increased legal challenges and financial claims for such governments. For the plaintiffs, the judgment provides a sense of legal recourse and justice for the losses suffered. However, making sure the judgment is followed poses a great difficulty. Getting a foreign state, such as Syria, to comply with decisions from U.S. courts, especially when significant money is involved, is usually tough. foreign governments often push back against enforcing these judgments, citing a lack of recognition for foreign decisions, especially if they clash with the state's view of its sovereignty and legal principles.
In conclusion, the Gates versus Syrian Arab Republic case represents a significant intersection of international law, state accountability, and the ongoing fight against state-sponsored terrorism.